Recording for this meeting has begun.
So, sorry, we just got a little message. So many years teaching fourth graders, I guess you know how a fourth grader thinks and what makes them tick.
Oh, well, you would think so. But every year when they come in, it's like a new batch. You would think after 20 years I would know what's going on. But they present me with new challenges, new learnings for myself as well as for them every year. And I love it. It's great.
Awesome.
Excuse
We
me?
can all relate to that. Would you tell us about your preparation for this Common Core lesson? Some of the shifts that you made in your instruction and your lesson planning because of what the Common Core was guiding you to do.
Okay. Well, within the Common Core, in trying to stick with the standards and really being able to focus and teach all the standards, you have to be able to integrate. And with science, in the lesson I was teaching, this was a perfect integration for conversation. They have to be able to communicate with one another. They have to be able to communicate to you and be able to express their ideas completely and show their understanding or their misconceptions. They have to do the same with writing. That's why we keep journals every day. They have to write what they're doing, their questions, they share their journals. This is a good feedback for any misconceptions they may have, plus it helps their writing skills. At this time, we're working on narratives and sentence structure and paragraph formation and inferring, so this really this type of writing really helps out in reinforcing those types of things. We also take in math, which they have to measure, they have to record, they have to make charts, they have to illustrate and label. All these things they have to do within their reading. And these are part of text structures. So you just have to be able to combine them and remind them, look, remember when we were talking about text structures, this is what when we were talking about labeling our illustrations or getting information from our drawings, this is exactly what we're doing. So it's a really good connection.
Fun to watch about this lesson, Barbara, is the student reactions. They're so engaged. They're obviously having a wonderful time. And they're writing. They're discussing the important points. They're writing, and they're writing with a purpose. Great job. And I'd love to just go ahead and start the video now. As you watch this video, talking out to our national audience, as you're watching this video, any questions that come up for you, please write them into the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll talk about those as soon as the video ends. Barbara may pause the video through this one screening that we're going to do right now and answer some of your
Participants' microphones have been turned off.
Okay, let's go ahead and listen to and watch Barbara's lesson on cricket investigation.
Today, we're going to be observing and exploring crickets.
In this segment, Barbara Hollenbeck, a fourth grade teacher at Carrick Elementary in Louisville, Kentucky, facilitates a science lesson in which her students classify crickets as insects. Barbara aligns her lesson with Common Core ELA Standards Speaking and Listening 4.1, Writing 4.8, and Writing 4.10.
We are beginning to do the food chain. We have explored soil, we have explored plants and seeds, and we're creating our own terrarium.
We have been studying soil and plants.
Barbara's morning message invites students to review and discuss the life science concepts they've been learning about.
What is the process that we were exploring yesterday and setting up experiments for? Jaquan.
Photosynthesis.
Today, the students explore new concepts as they add crickets to their terrariums.
Wow, a real live cricket.
you to think about, and I want you to talk to your partner, to your buddy that's next to you, and I want you to decide whether or not you think that a cricket is an insect.
Okay, look, is it insect? Because I want that in my own. Is it an insect? Because it has 6 legs. Yeah, and it got antennas. And, and a head, thorax, and an abdomen.
They're going to be using process skills, which is part of the standards. And the process skills they'll be using are observing. They're going to be recording. They're going to be classifying.
It's a real live cricket.
Experience with these process skills contributes towards students' mastery of the standards targeted in this lesson.
Did you? Okay. All right. Kids are natural scientists. And they want to, they're wondering these things. What, what does it eat? Where does it go? What's going to happen when I do this? So it's just a very engaging thing.
As you notice, the cricket ain't saying nothing. It's silent. Yeah? It's a male. It's a female. No. Male's a boy.
Okay. What did you decide? Is a cricket an insect? And be ready to tell me why. Okay. Isabel?
A cricket's not an insect because most insects have 6 legs and crickets only have 4.
Okay. So you think it only has 4. Does anyone want to add to what Isabel is saying?
I don't agree with Isabel because the cricket does have 6 legs, and an insect has abdomen, thorax, and a head with antennas.
Good feedback. They have to learn to share ideas with one another, to disagree with one another, and they did some disagreeing a little bit.
Big back legs in there, and those are also legs, but they use them for jumping.
Through their discussion in groups and as a class, Barbara's students progress towards speaking and listening standard 4.1 by building on others' ideas and clearly expressing their own. They now move to the hypothesis testing phase of the activity by gathering and recording evidence of the cricket's anatomy.
I like the way you're starting your drawing. Oh, wonderful. Don't forget to label each part.
I know what.
I like the way you're using your chart. Good job. Name the parts for me.
In drawing and writing about the crickets, Barbara's students gather evidence from their own observations and from a chart describing the characteristics of insects.
Paint a picture with words. That's described. That's right.
Their work gives them experience with learning targets in writing standards 4.8 and 4.10 and prepares them to present their conclusions to the class.
I think it's an insect because it has 6 legs, 3 body parts, and 4 antennas. I know that because I took a magnifying glass and looked at it real close.
Now, you've told me that this is an insect, and you told me why. You told me that it had 3 body parts. What was one of the body parts that you noticed? Skylar, can you identify another body part we haven't mentioned? We've said the head and the thorax. We've said the wings and the antenna.
The abdomen.
The abdomen? Okay, the abdomen. Good job. Now I want you to observe what happens when you just gently touch the antenna. You're not going to stab it. You're just going to gently touch that antenna.
Their observations of the crickets have prepared students for 2 simple experiments. One involves gently touching the antennae with a pencil eraser and recording the cricket's response.
You squished it, Brian. I didn't.
In the second experiment, students place a tent-shaped piece of paper in the container with the cricket.
Okay, well, just keep watching it. No, honey, don't shake it. Don't shake it inside.
The students predict how the cricket will respond to the tent, then observe and compare their predictions to its behavior.
Please write down your observations. Be ready to share. Remember, when you're writing detail, you're painting a picture with words.
After recording details from each experiment, students volunteer and call on each other to share their findings with the class.
He was going through the holes and he's climbing all over it. and he touched it with his antenna and he got scared.
For the lesson's final observation activity, students put the crickets into their terrariums and observe and record their responses to the new environment.
I was trying to get her flies down. No, look at it trying to get out in the grass.
If you are a materials manager, please bring the terrariums over to me. I put it in your...
After putting away the terrariums, students sit down together for a pair share of what they learned in the lesson.
I think the quick day was trying to lay down. Maybe it was like sleepy because it was tired because it was eating too much grass or too much sand.
The final discussion gives students further opportunity to use their new knowledge. It also gives Barbara another opportunity to monitor individual progress and encourage verbal expression.
One was digging a hole to make its home, and the other one was exploring around the terrarium.
Okay. Pick someone who wants to share.
Melissa. My group did almost the same exact thing, just you didn't dig.
Didn't dig? Okay. So tell me in your own words, what did it do?
It hopped around on grass.
Okay.
And when he got on the hill, he hopped down. It was kind of funny.
I think they did very well with their discussions and working well in small groups. And they were successful in determining that it is an actual insect.
It got an abdomen, thorax, and it had 6 legs.
I was impressed with some of the terminology they already had.
I said he must have been camouflaging himself because of the predators.
Which makes it easier in transitioning to the concepts I'm trying to teach. And it also gives me feedback as to where I need to go from here in making sure that they understand the contribution that this insect is going to have within their terrarium, within their little habitat. And that's what they're going to see with each addition of a living organism and how they react to one another.
We have begun our food chain, and we're going to continue it tomorrow. I'm going to give you a word to think about, and it may be a word you've heard before, it may not be, and that word is decomposer. Hello? Creating our
Yes.
Sorry, it was on mute during the video and I didn't get back on mute, so ask that again, sorry.
Have questions for Barbara, please type them in the question and answer. And Barbara, one question that has been asked by Jenny is how many students do you have in class? And I'd like to add to that the question about the culture and climate that we saw. What preparation, what work did you do with the students ahead of time and over the course of the beginning of that school year to create such a collaborative and cooperative engagement between them?
Oh, it took a while. It took a while to really get them comfortable with the routine, and we developed the routine together. I do have a very diverse group. I have a group. I had a group of 24 students, and I had 2 ECE within that group. 79 to 82% free and reduced lunch, and they came from very diverse backgrounds. They have I guess I would for a total of my last years, I would classify them as a group to be medium to medium low learners, and they were they were so fun to work with. I just loved working with them. this year we're doing this. In fact, I taught this unit again this week, or this particular lesson, and it was totally different because of the different group of students I have, and it's a totally different mix. But that's the background of the students that I have in my classroom. Oh, I also had some special needs. I had a boy with autism and Tourette's, and so all of that, I mean, was reflected in there, but you really probably you couldn't tell from just looking at it. So.
And it is one of the attributes of hands-on, project-based learning, interactive activities, that it really does reach out and connect every child. We saw very strong engagement across all of your students, and it's one of those strategies that I guess is hard to prepare for and create classroom experiences of, but it is one of those strategies that's just so effective in connecting all students to the learning. Would you agree?
Yes, I do. I do agree with that. And I saw an interesting question as come across the screen, and it was, how did I choose the standards to go along with the lessons? And, well, you know, right at the beginning, even before school starts, my teammates and myself, we look at what standards, we look at 6-week blocks, because that's how, you know, that's when our report cards come out. We look at what's being taught at that time, what do I need to teach, and our Jefferson County system is wonderful in helping us with coordinating these standards to these 6-period blocks. So I have lists of standards. I look and see what I need to teach. Then we start pulling it apart. Where can I put this? And we put them together. Some of them are pretty obvious because you have to speak and write for learning just about across the curriculum. So that's going to be in there no matter what you're teaching. Because if you're reading, you should have a notebook with you, and you should be writing as well, regardless of what it is you're reading, your social studies, your science, no matter what. So I choose the core content according to that and what they need to know. And it's very specific. It's very honed. So, you know, we work hard with doing that.
One of the things you said a little while ago, Barbara, was that you saw changes. It was like more adaptation that you needed to think about giving this lesson to a new group of students because of their individual differences. Can you talk to us about those changes, and as our audience thinks about replicating your lesson in their classroom, what kinds of considerations should they make in terms of meeting the individual needs?
Okay, well, you do have to look at the core content. You have to see what they need to know, and how that's going to apply. Then you have to adjust the lesson according to that. And that's how I choose my lessons. What's best going to serve the students? What's best going to serve the students and get them to understand and know the content? Would you repeat your question again? I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. Could you repeat your
Yes, you said that you had to adapt the lesson a little bit, that you saw some very different outcomes in a new group of students, and as our teachers, our colleagues out there make decisions about how they might replicate your lesson in their classroom, what consideration should they give to the individual students that they have and the unique design and population of their classroom?
Well, what I do is, well, their writings and their responses. I always have a little notebook with me, and I'm charting little things. I have a little checklist, and I look at those and I see who has those misconceptions, who can go on and who can't. And with those, I make groups. They have things that they work on that is directly related to whatever it is we're doing. They may be writing in their journals or reading a related book that they're going to have to respond to within that journal, while I take small groups to dispel any misconceptions or to see what the misunderstandings are with the vocabulary, get them a little bit more fluent with their writing within their journal so they can express those wonderful ideas that they have. So, and it takes a while. It's kind of a workshop type of method in which everyone is working, but they all may be doing different things, and that takes some developing, and I pull small groups for anything that for anyone who needs a refresher on something that we've been are more learning on a certain concept.
Thank you. That's great. Someone else is asking about the resources. One of the questions is, where did you get the crickets? And another is, noticing the books that the children were using in the room. Did you connect and collaborate with your media specialist to get resources for this lesson?
Well, we have about 10 years ago, Jefferson County had adopted, it was FOSS and Delta Science kits, in which they've developed a warehouse with them, and they've coordinated the kits with the standards for science. And I would take it further and connect it with other, like with math or with reading and writing. But we would get the kits, and I believe it's Carolina Biological, in which the live critters come, and the office hates it. They always call me and say, get one of your kids to come down here and get these boxes. Things are hopping and moving, and so so we have a warehouse, and we have biological. Carolina Biological, who sends our things to us. Plus, they only send us crickets once. Those lizards have to last throughout the lesson, and I keep them throughout the year. So my pet store loves me. We get things from them, and it gives us a break on it and everything. So it's just footwork on some things.
So as a group of us watched your video for the first time, we were intrigued by your clothing. You kind of gave them this little peek at the future. Your new word for the next time is going to be decomposer. Oh. All of us are saying, oh my goodness, I hope they don't get too attached to this cricket. I just have to ask, how did all that play out? And were they connected enough to the science that there wasn't a lot of grieving going on? Or how did you manage kind of both the scientists and the right and left brain?
Okay, well, right at the beginning, when we're making our learning communities at the beginning of the school year, they're put into groups, and everybody has a special job, and the jobs alternate. You have your supply specialists, who I already have things lined out on a special table, and I'll say, you take one per group or one per person in your group, and so they'll know what to get. So that person is in charge of the materials and putting them back too. I also have a questioner who, instead of a dozen kids jumping up and asking you questions, they have to give it to that questioner, and only that questioner can ask you the question, that your group, that the group wants to ask, or if there's a problem. There's also a group leader. There's a reporter and a recorder, and a group writer and a person who speaks for the group. So that is my management system, and they alternate maybe every 3 or 4 sessions or so, and they switch jobs, so everybody has all the jobs at least once. And that's how I manage those. Also, some groups are going to get finished before others. There have been different ways I've handled that. The most successful way I've handled that is I had little cards on the group's tables, a red and green card. The green card said ready, That means that they're ready for the next thing or for you to come check whatever it is that they're doing. The red card means still working. So I can just glance around the room and tell by what side of the card is up where everyone is and who needs the help. Those are little management techniques that that they have. The role of the leader of the group, they have to keep everyone focused, and they're to make sure everyone listens to one another. And we establish these when we talk about these roles at the beginning of the school year. We have lists and charts that they've developed. What does a good leader do? What does it look like? What does it sound like? And we do that with every type of job, and so that they understand what their roles are.
I'm struck by how real world that is. You know, part of the conversation that launched the Common Core for all of us was this idea of understanding what students should know and be able to do to be college and career ready. And as we watched the video, we saw examples of ways that students were taking responsibility, learning to be collaborative and adaptive. And can you speak to those 21st century skills that you were intentionally developing, and maybe some surprises that you had in terms of what the students were learning because of this lesson?
Okay. Well, like I said, it takes a while to develop the management system, and you have to keep practicing it. It doesn't happen right away. And then they have to learn to talk to one another, to be able to know how to disagree as well as agree, and and not play a quiet but a responsible role within their group. The changes that have been made, of course, depends on the group of students that you have in there, because some are going to be to work easier with one another and others aren't. So there you make your changes in your design. You might have to group them by 2s instead of 4s because they can't handle working in 4s. Some may just have to work individually, and everyone wants to be a participant. If you at the beginning, you say you have to choose to be a participant or an observer. They don't want to be have to do the writing without doing that physical work there, that hands-on experience. So they want to be a participant, and they're going to do what they have to do that. Did that answer your question? I'm not. I get so caught up in my thoughts that I sometimes lose the question, and I apologize.
You're doing an amazing job of reading the questions, answering the questions. Your education and experience is very, very evident, Barbara, and we appreciate your sharing your expertise with all of us.
I do know that when watching a lot of videos myself to try and help my teaching, I do know I've seen videos of students, and I'm looking, oh, this isn't a real classroom, because these students are so good and they're so engaged and they're doing all this. My classroom doesn't do that, but it takes I do have a very diverse group, and it takes a lot of planning and just a lot of patience, because so often I'll hear, especially at the beginning of the school year, other teachers going, oh, I'm not going to do it that way because they're crazy, they're just too loud and they're going everywhere, and it just takes time. It just you just have to go back and revisit and keep plugging away at it. And you'll be surprised. They really respond to that.
Bernadette's comment is that everything that you're presenting is listed in the Common Core. It's part of the Common Core, and she's appreciating being able to see those best practices right there, so that she's able to see an example of what it looks like in the classroom. And so I just want to mention that this video that you saw is part of the Library on School Improvement Network's Common Core 360. You can get a free license very readily for 30 days to kind of take a look, and there's several other examples of Barbara's good teaching with her 4th graders from last year. There are examples of math and science and writing, speaking, listening, reading for informational text. and secondary, both secondary and elementary. So just want to encourage you to go and if you're interested in seeing your colleagues really employ the Common Core to create great interactive, engaging lessons, preparing our kids for college and career, and starting kindergarten through 12. We welcome you to come and check out our website. So Barbara, one of the questions that I see here, Sandra is asking about the lesson extension that you mentioned, and so can you elaborate a little bit about how you would extend the lesson? Maybe it could include some things that you did the day after and the next day as you kind of built on the learnings that took place in the event that we saw.
Well, at my school, we're fortunate. We have a woods right outside the schoolyard, and we have also a garden area that we've developed. So I can invite the children to collect other insects or creatures that they think are insects, and then they can determine whether or not we can see whether or not that those skills have been developed, if they can identify which is which. So those are some of the extended things that they do. Also, within reading, I have a wide selection. My library, my librarian, I go to our public library too and pull as many books as I can that would help with what I'm teaching, and things that they high interest that they would look at and reinforce what I have been teaching them. And if what I could do is I could type in my email address, and if there are other questions or things in which you want to know or how to get or whatever, I'd be glad to, as best I could, answer those questions and email you that way if you would like to do that.
Wonderful. That's very generous. Thank you very much, Barbara. Something I want to let you all know is there is a guidebook included with every classroom example. And within the guidebook for this lesson, we have included Barbara's lesson plan. And so it's a great place to start if you're thinking about incorporating this lesson into a science unit or speaking and listening, the English language arts. If you'd like to adapt portions of it, her lesson plan is there, available for your download on the School Improvement Network website. And all of the, as you can see on the screen right now, all of the Common Core classrooms have a link where you can click and download that guidebook. The guidebooks also have reflection questions. So, for example, if you wanted to share this video with colleagues, perhaps in a faculty meeting or a team meeting, to look at the video together and then open the guidebook and kind of investigate those reflection questions together has been found to be a really effective way to create that professional learning community around rolling out the Common Core in these early days of Common Core practice.
Right, and as Lisa said, I just want to chime in quick. Someone mentioned earlier in the video it had this, this text show up to download the guidebook. Like Lisa said, that's attached to the video on Common Core 360 on the website. And all these resources, the guidebook as well as reflection questions and things like that, are on Common Core 360, along with this and other Common Core in the Classroom videos. And at the end of the webinar, we'll give you a link to sign up for a trial if you don't currently have access, and some ways you can get some more information on that.
One of the subjects that I'd like to address before we head off, and we have about 7 more minutes, is around assessment. And Jenny asks a great question: how do you grade an activity like the crickets?
How do I grade an activity like the crickets? Well, first of all, I develop a rubric that goes along with what I'm expecting them to learn and to know, and my expectations. We go over the rubric with the students together. I give because a lot of it is their observations, and there are key terms that I'm looking for, key science terms that you heard a lot of the children saying, the specific body parts, whether or not it was an insect, how it connects with the life in the terrarium, things like that. Those are things I am looking for. My lesson on that was crickets, so any understanding and their depth of understanding of an insect is basically what I was looking for and how my rubric was set up. And I believe my rubric was included in the lesson plan and everything, so that should be in there. So, they have to have complete. I always stress for complete sentences, unless it's like an illustration, but everything has to be labeled correctly. If the correct spellings are there in front of them or around them, usually I have things posted all around the room, especially if we have touched on it before. I expect correct spelling if it's there. If it's not, then it's a new word that they're using and that we'll use in a class next time. So, and then I don't expect the correct spelling, but that's how I do it.
It's as we suspected, all of that effortless teaching that happened when we were able to do it came with a lot of planning, and it sounds like a lot of intentionality, and that's why such great learning took place. Just to kind of stay on the topic of assessment for a moment, you had students give presentations at the end. Yes. I'd love to hear about your rationale behind having students present, and then how do you include the children who aren't presenting?
Having them present gives them a way of expressing their ideas verbally, taking not only have they put it down on paper, they have to express it verbally. So, and that's also part of the standards. How to improve it is, and some of the kids will suggest, I need more details on this. What do you mean that that it had 6 legs or 4 legs instead of 6? You know, you know, they just it helps them to be able to share, verbalize their ideas, and you know, just not speak in phrases or fragments, organize thoughts, which I seem to have trouble doing right now, but but that's what it helps them do. I remember when I was younger, I felt like I couldn't organize my thoughts enough to speak in front of people, so I didn't want to. but a lot of the children will, and they do, even those who have trouble speaking, who may go to speech. They want to get up there and sit on the hot seat. I have a stool that I call the hot seat, and they like to come up and speak, or sit in the reader's chair, that rocking chair that I have, and read. It also improves fluency, which is right there in the standards, and they have to be for that reading.
I'm hearing you speak about several examples of building student leadership capacity, and we see evidence of great student leadership in the classroom session. Can you talk to us about your intentional planning and preparation and your desired results, your hopeful desired results, when you think about student leadership?
Well, that empowering, I mean, I don't want to be the teacher, and sometimes I feel like I am at the beginning of the school year especially, that just stands up and talks, and you're like that, that Charlie Brown teacher, and the kids hear wah, 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 wah. That's not the kind of teacher I want to be, nor is that what they're going to want to listen to. So, having them express their ideas to one another, they're going to be taking over their learning that way. You're going to be able to see and hear, you know, exactly what they're really getting by letting them discuss these things you don't give the answers to. You just don't say, and it's hard for me sometimes not to stop and say, no, that's the wrong idea, that's not right. Let them talk about it. Let them work it out. Let them have that friendly arguing session, and then I mean, it's just amazing to me, you know, how much they get from that and how much they learn from that, and that just develops more and more until the end of the school year, when I can just give it to them, let them take off, and I can go around and just help those that struggle with it a little bit. And it's wonderful. And you can see that in their writing and the development in their writing as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for all of your sharing and your openness to answer our questions. Thank you for building our capacity to teach to the Common Core. And we look forward to seeing more of your great classrooms on the Common Core website. And we hope to have you back again.
Thank you.
Sometime.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Like I said, if you have questions, feel free to email me. I'll be glad or to answer whatever I didn't answer here. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your classroom. Enjoy the rest of your teaching day. I know that's where you're headed back to.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming. I have a couple kind of closing questions I'd like to ask you. I kind of move to that screen now. So I want to find out how you like this, what other topics you might be able to hear about. And so should switch over.
So Scott's going to post a quick survey, a couple of questions we'd love to hear back from you.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so we'd like to find out kind of see what you guys think about. If you like a little bit more about this program or Common Core 360. Also, if you in your classrooms are using Common Core or beginning to use Common Core and you'd like to share some of the ideas and insights you have had, please share it with us. Click that second box, click yes, and let us know what you'd like to share. And again, they'll ask questions if there are future webinars you'd like to, or topics or videos even that you're interested in. Let us know, because that helps us to find future content. And then you'll also see on the right, there's some links. If you want to learn more about this and other videos, if you were not able to see the video when we played it today, there's this second link where it says use these links to learn more. The second link it says join the conversation about this and other videos. That will lead you to a blog where we've posted this video, and you can join the discussion about this specific video there. And through that blog, you can get access to or more information about how to find that on Common Core 360. But again, thanks so much for attending. We're grateful you could come join us. And yeah, again, if you have other questions or anything else, just please let us know.
And next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, Kimberly Snowball will be joining us. She is an 8th grade math teacher extraordinaire. She's going to be teaching a lesson on finding volume of spheres and cylinders. And I know you'll enjoy seeing Kimberly's lesson. So meantime, you all have a great week and take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.